Yeah, I do it for my people and my family and the ones who say they understand me. Yeah, I see you and I see you. We gon' make it to the top, that's what we do. Tell them like, black is the new green. Black is the new green. We gon' make it to the top, we gon' live our dream. Shout out to the ones who doubt me. I'm a strong black king, tell them crown me. Beat the odds, leave them mad, now they frowning. I be swimming in the money like I'm drowning. Black is the new green.
Hey friends, welcome to our final episode of Black is the New Green for our first season. We actually did it, and I'm really excited about our final episode. We're going out with a bang today. But let me first welcome you to Black is the New Green, an original series of live interviews dedicated to shining the spotlight on Black entrepreneurs and the amazing achievements in our community. I'm Michelle Taylor Willis, your host for the show, and I'm so excited for our live audience joining us on this remarkable occasion. Black is the New Green was created by Radivision, the streaming and community platform for the startup world, where everyone can be entertained, learn about, and participate in the entrepreneurial revolution that is completely transforming how we live, work, play, but most importantly, create our futures. Speaking of creating futures, you guys are going to be blown away. He's smiling. Yeah, I'm talking about you. You know that. Blown away by my guest today. His name is Kwame Anku, and he is the CEO and chairman of the Black Star Fund. I could spend the 30 minutes we have, giving him 15 different titles, but you've seen him probably everywhere. He's spoken on major stages, South by Southwest. He's TEDx. He's everywhere. But the one word that I really like to use to describe him is empowerer, because that's who he is and that's what he does. And so I'm so excited to have you here, Kwame. We're about to have a real discussion. We might hurt some people's feelings today, Kwame. But
that's all right. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm excited, really excited. Sis, thank you. So before I start, I just want to thank you for inviting me, but also to just thank you for all that you've been doing, not only with the show, but just within the context of your career as a voice, as a convener, as somebody who's bringing light to a dark world. We appreciate you tremendously, and I'm grateful to be able to spend this time with you today.
Wow, look at somebody doing homework on the MT Dubs.
You got to be prepared.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I think you and I have some work to do, but we'll talk about that later. Yes. All right. So just to kind of set the landscape here, like I always do, tell people in, maybe just a minute or so exactly who you are and what you do as it relates to the Black Star Fund.
Sure. Well, look, my name is Kwame Anku, and I am the founder, CEO, really the visionary behind Black Star Fund. And Black Star Fund is a venture capital fund, and we invest in high growth companies that are led by extraordinary Black entrepreneurs. For me, it's really simple. When people think about venture capital who are not a part of it, sometimes they think it's a daunting thing, or it's like, high level sophisticated finance. At the end of the day, it's very, very simple. We aggregate money, we deploy that money, and we help companies to be successful. And if we do that right and we do it well, then we're increasing value, which means that we are making money. And then the more money you make, the more people you can help. It's that simple.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a quote. I can't remember who said it, but I stole it and I use it a lot. I love making money because it allows me to give more money, right? And so you said three key words: aggregate, deploy, and help. Really meaty words. And you're right. I think there's this cloud of illusion that happens when you start talking about VC or PE funding. But you made it real simple. Aggregate funds, deploy them, help.
I live in that world. I went to Stanford, and a lot of times people think, you're like, you got to be eggheads or rocket scientists and that kind of stuff. But my brain operates so much smoother, easier, and efficiently in simple blocks. And typically I think in blocks of 3. And I think that's how kind of life works, right? Stories, like in the beginning, middle, and an end. There's this 3-part series. And so that's how my brain works. And then it's easy for everybody to understand what you do, how you do it. And how they can support what you're doing too. What bucket do I
Right.
fall in? Am I helping to aggregate capital? Am I helping to define companies to deploy it to? Am I helping to hyper accelerate the growth of those companies so that they're successful so we can just, rinse and repeat?
Right. And it makes so much sense too. It makes it easier. The simpler we keep things, the simpler it is for other people to really be able to help us accomplish whatever goals we want to do. Right. So that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a political strategist, James Carville, who used to say back in the day, don't complicate the simple. And I think a
That's
lot
right.
of that is because life is very complicated and it can be very sophisticated in terms of understanding a lot of different things. So if you got as much complexity and sophistication in life already, then when you're taking on other challenges or other projects, you're trying to keep it simple. And that's what we try to do.
There's a meaning to that phrase, right? Kiss it, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
So, all right, let's dive right in here and talk
Sure.
about Blacks in the VC space.
Sure.
And actually
Sure.
in the just in the entrepreneurial space, in the startup space, in the tech space. Talk to me about your experience there and how you were able to basically create this fund from scratch. Because I mean, although you can make it sound simple, it's not the easiest
Yeah.
thing to do. Or maybe it is. Maybe I'm just thinking
Right.
about it too.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's good. It's important. I mean, look, the way that my brain operates and how I kind of walk in the world, and certainly how I share, what we do and kind of the dynamics of life and business, is actually that the processes, kind of the equation for success, is very simple. The process is not easy, and I think if we can embrace that and then have
Right.
whatever emotional and intestinal fortitude necessary to embark on the journey, then we'll get there. So for me, remember when I started in this world, you're talking about 2015. So we're seeing this extraordinary explosion of new funds and new fund managers and people focusing on founders of color and fund managers of color, and specifically Black, um, post George Floyd, which was only 2020, right? It's less than 2 years ago. So I started back in 2015, and I had the extraordinary opportunity to work with the legendary rock star Prince. And that was really the genesis of the work that I do. Working with him, I had gotten connected to him through Van Jones, who you guys know from
Mm,
CNN and all the work that he's done. And Van and I had been running together since we were in our 20s, over 20 years ago. And he was really good friends with Prince. And so there was an opportunity that had presented itself, and Van and Prince literally called me on the phone and wanted me to work with them, and I had done some projects with them. But it was in the
okay,
course of
wait,
that
wait,
work.
wait, wait. I don't mean to cut you off, but I have to cut you off. You're talking like, oh yeah, Prince and Van call me, and we're just like shooting it up, and I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
You're talking to
Yeah,
Prince?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I don't mean to be cavalier about it, right? But that's the story, right? Like that's
Right,
the genesis story. So that's where this all of this comes from, and I think it's important because you're asking, like, call me, like, how did you do what you did, and
right.
how are you doing what it is that you're doing? We got to go back to kind of the beginning. But yeah, literally, I had been, roommates with Van back in San Francisco in the mid '90s, and like, we'd literally known each other since we were in our early 20s. And
Wow.
so when he had left the White House after working with the Obama administration, Prince actually had reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want to get to know you better. I've been supporting your nonprofit work in Oakland anonymously." And, Van didn't know that. And so that friendship developed. They were working on a project. I had actually had a production company for a long time, done a lot of amazing production work all over the world, and done stuff with Van. And so that's how the connection was made with Prince. And so I had an opportunity to put something together for him. He loved it, wanted to meet with me. Kind of the rest was history. But it was in the context of working with him, Michelle, that he had asked this really profound question that really kind of shook me to the core, and it stayed with me literally every day of my career since then. And he just asked this question. He said, "Where are the Black Mark Zuckerbergs?
Mm,
Okay, where are they?" And ostensibly, what he was asking, or at least how I took it, is then what are we doing to create that? Now, the interesting thing is I went to school, right? Now, granted, Zuckerberg went to Harvard, but he built the company down the street from Stanford. And what Stanford produced in the world was Yahoo, PayPal, Palantir, YouTube, Google, the list goes on and on and on. I was at a really interesting time, right? Jerry Yang was 2 years ahead of me raising money for Yahoo when we were undergrad, you know. Peter Thiel was in law school when I was an undergrad, who wrote the first angel check to Facebook. Reid Hoffman, who was a contemporary of mine at Stanford. So my point is that I came up in an era, which was a dawn of the internet, at a time where people created transformative companies, and all of them to a company started with basically $100,000 to $500,000, which those founders themselves did not have. Right? It's not like Mark Zuckerberg was like, some rich kid who came up with this idea and then had 500 grand of his own money. They had to share the idea, share the vision, and a small group of people who had the capital, who saw the opportunity, wrote checks. And so when we looked at that question that Prince asked us, where are the Black Mark Zuckerbergs? It was really simple. It's like, well, look, we're just going to follow the exact same play. Are there extraordinary Black entrepreneurs in the United States? Yes. Are they creating game-changing, planet-changing technologies? Absolutely. Do they have the potential of being multi-billion-dollar enterprises? Absolutely. Right. So the list goes on and on and on. The unique thing was, and this is interesting, right? Because part of the dynamic at that point was, well, only less than 1% of all the venture capital goes to African Americans, and like it's this big tragedy. And then the story ended up being, well, how do we get Silicon Valley to pay attention to us? How do we get Silicon Valley people to see the value in us? My thing was like, nah, that's the wrong question. Why? Because I came up with the people who created the global technology behemoths. They did not go to anybody saying, well, give us a shot. We deserve to play too. They had something of value. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you don't live in a biased society. I'm not saying that you can just ignore 400 years of systemic racism. Right. What I'm saying is that the game of entrepreneurship and global finance, particularly when you're dealing with venture capital, it's a conversation around value. Now, cultural bias will not see the value at first.
Right.
Which is why you had less than 1%. But also those of us who wanted to play in the game didn't fundamentally understand what the game was. The game was a value proposition game, not a meritocracy game. So if it's a value proposition game,
right,
and you only need a small group of people, you don't need all at Silicon Valley. You don't need 85, 90% of Silicon Valley. You don't even need 95% of Silicon Valley. You need a small group of people who see the value that you are bringing and the potential explosive value that the thing that you're creating could make. And so that's what I jumped into, because I knew all those things are true. And I knew all I needed was a small group of people who could put a few $100,000 into a pool. And I knew that we could put that in the hands of extraordinary Black entrepreneurs. And I also knew there was no competition. And, before you know it, we had, just extraordinary companies, extraordinary leaders with incredible growth.
I mean, again, so let me tell you, one of your strengths, you probably know this already, is just your ability to communicate on a very fundamental level and make things make sense that we don't always feel like makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah, it does.
Because even I'm in this space, right, so to speak, and listening to you communicate how this all works, even how, I can actually see myself going, oh, wait, yeah, I could do that, right? And what I hear you saying, really, it's about network. It's about starting early if you can, developing relationships, and value. And I love how you said, like, it's this lack of merit, right? I had a friend of mine in Congress told me one time, listen, if we awarded money to people based on merit, half the people wouldn't have anything, right? It's
right.
It's the value that they bring. It's not really based on whether or not, they deserve it, so to speak, right?
That's it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Just a couple quick points on that, if you can.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite quotes is from philosopher Wayne Dyer, and he said, "When you change the way you see things, the things that you see change." And what I heard in terms of your reaction, what I shared, right, was that kind of these light bulbs are going off. Well, why actually is that, right? Is I'm saying something that's so profound? No, maybe, probably not. It's that we're looking at it differently.
Right.
And so I think what's happened, Michelle, is that so many of us have been socialized with all of these phrases that we've just come to believe is true, especially as African Americans, right? Well, you have to be twice as good to get half as much, and all these crazy things that actually are not true. So what happens is that when you start to get a new framework that's actually based on truth, it resonates with you differently. I remember a friend of mine is an incredible trainer and life coach, and he says, when truth enters the room,
Wait a minute. Kwame, we're losing you a little bit. Kwame? Uh-oh. Kwame, are you there?
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, start talking for me again. Your screen is frozen on my end, and I can't hear you. If you can hear me. Oh, here he comes. Wait a minute. Oh, we lost him. Shoot. Okay, guys, hang tight yeah, he's coming back. There he is.
Okay.
We did that on purpose, guys. We wanted to keep you interested and engaged, and that's called a cliffhanger. And so now he's going to come back and finish everything he said.
All right. Where did you lose me?
You were just talking. Oh,
you saw me?
You there?
Live TV, live streaming.
TV, that's right. This is what live gets us. I think I lost you when you said that. The last thing I heard you say. Gosh, now I'm trying to remember.
No, it's fine. Well, let me pick up on reframing. So did you hear the thing we talked about?
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. So you changed. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Right? That was the last. That was the last bucket word.
So I think what happens, it's with all of us, but today we're talking about Black is the New Green. So I think as African Americans, we've been socialized with certain phraseologies that we've accepted to be true that are actually the opposite of self-empowering. They're actually disempowering. You got to be half as good. You got to be twice as good to get half as much, and all these other crazy things that we teach our children. They're just not true.
Right.
And so a friend of mine.
That was the last thing I heard about truth. Truth was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine is a great trainer and life coach. Says that when truth enters into the room, the energy shifts. Right? And so it shifts. So what it is it's not just, well, how do you know, Kwame, what you're saying is the truth? Well, because when you're sharing it, people feel empowered.
Right.
See, that's how you know it's the truth, right? And so we've got to just think about these things differently. Oh, less than 1% of venture capital goes to Black people. This is terrible. And we've got such a long road to go. Well, wait a second. That's what we were saying 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's at 3%. Now, a lot of people would say, well, 3%, that's terrible. And say, oh, hold on a second. 1 to 3%.
Yeah, that's
2 years. That's 200% growth. Now, show me in the world of investing and finance, anybody getting 200% growth in 2 years, nobody's complaining. So if you get 200% in 2 years, then maybe you could be at 5% in 18 months. I mean, it's extraordinary. So you have to put the energy and focus behind the momentum, not focusing on the lack. And then that's where you get the results.
Yeah, and I love too what you say about this truth, because either way it works or doesn't, right? So whatever your truth is, right? Whatever your truth is, that's how you move.
That is right.
And I love how you say, and your friend, the trainer, when truth enters the room, right? Because it's like, that's when the real aha moments go off, or when, all of these things get dispelled and you realize, wait a minute, it's glass half full, right? These are opportunities now. And I think right. And we get into, as Black people, Black entrepreneurs, investors, all these things, all we hear is what we aren't doing and what's not happening. And it becomes disheartening because you think now what can't happen as opposed to what can happen. You know what I mean?
absolutely do. And I think that's why what you're doing is so important with the show and the way you've done. If you think about when you put journalism, again, it
Wait a minute,
leads,
Kwame, hold on. We're losing you a little bit again. We still got, hold on. I think it'll come back like it did last time. We just got to wait it out a little bit. Okay, here we go. One of the things I just thought was so impactful that he said really is the fact that once truth hits, you can move differently, right? And we get so many opportunities, I think, that we don't always see as opportunities. We see as things that are working against us. But a lot of times, the negative actually can work in our favor. And two, this question that Prince asked, where are all the Black Mark Zuckerbergs? And I got to tell you, if you follow Kwame on LinkedIn, they're all in his LinkedIn feed. He is absolutely an empowerer and a convener. He's the convener catalyst, I think, when we start talking about funding Black entrepreneurs, Black founders. I think during Black History Month, if you just go in his feed, there's almost like literally a new founder every day. Somebody's been awarded, somebody just pitched, somebody just launched a new business, somebody's got some more funding. And they're not all Marks. Some of them are Marcy's, Marcy and Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know. But I think the answer to the question is like, they're all around us. The Black Mark Zuckerbergs are there. They just need a platform to be able to get these opportunities out. And Kwame's fund is that opportunity. So if you're watching right now, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you started something and you're looking for somewhere to go or you need some resources, follow him, Kwame Anku, KWAME ANKU, and you will be able to, at least get some resources. And of course, you can always check out all of our amazing founders on radavision.com. We've interviewed amazing people over the series, and this is our 13th one. And so you'll be able to just get a lot of your questions answered, learn about how these people have done, what they did, and as always, be inspired. And let me see if we were able to get, doesn't look like he has come back. He might have lost internet. I hope he didn't. He is so amazing. And if we did, what that means is we will literally just have to spin this back up. We got to bring him back on in the next season. We are literally going to be going on hiatus, and we should be back late August, beginning of September, somewhere around there, with another 12 or 13 episodes of Black is the New Green. And we've already got half of the season loaded. We know exactly who the people are that we're going to bring to you. The platform look a little bit different. We'll have some interesting new ways that you can support these businesses, fund them if you want, connect, collaborate, whatever. So make sure that you continue to follow and stay engaged with radavision.com. Set it, as a bookmark on your phone and on your computer, on your laptop, on your iPad or mobile device, because you are not going to want to miss what we've got coming in the next season. So it looks like we might have lost Kwame. I wanted to give him a couple of minutes to see if he could come, if he was going to make it back on, but it doesn't look like. And I don't know. I know we've got a couple questions. I wish I could answer them on his behalf, but I can't. So I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and close the show. And let me just tell you again, I want to make sure that we thank everybody who has supported Black is the New Green for our first season. Like I mentioned earlier, we have completed 13 episodes to this point. We started on 2/2/22, the first Wednesday of Black History Month in 2022. And from then, we have grown exponentially. And so that's because of you. That's because of people liking and sharing the content on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And that's because of the engagement that we've had, but it's really about the support. So we really thank you, because we built this community. And I want to give special kudos to our founder here at Radavision, Mona DeFrawley. She is a powerhouse of everything, finance, tech, startup. She's amazing. And that's a name that you should definitely look up. But she built this Radivision community for entrepreneurs, for startup, for people just like you and me, everyday people who literally were built to change the world. And Black is the New Green is where we get to inspire, our community, right? We get to thrive, we get to build, we get to help support these amazing companies. But most importantly, we get to share our stories. We can feed off the energy of these amazing, amazing people like Kwame. And these are people who succeed against great odds and create their own opportunities. They put it all out there. They take risks. They risk it all on their network, their money, everything, just to get a shot at following their passions and creating great value in the world. And guess what, guys? You can do the same thing. That's what's amazing about all the guests that we have here. Although everybody's unique, right? Everybody's special in their own way. There's nothing really special. If you follow all of the people that we've been interviewing, they pretty much all say the same thing, that Black doesn't have to be an inhibitor to success in the startup world and the VC world and the PE world. Look at things as an opportunity. Find a great network, collaborate, partner, ask, diversify, believe in yourself, have confidence, have a value proposition. Everybody says the same thing, and it's about empowerment. And it lines completely up with a lot of the things I talk about as well. So again, you can follow us at Radivision on just about everything. I am Michelle Taylor Willis, your host, and thank you for giving me the honor and pleasure of being here with you every Wednesday at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern time. We will spin back up. Make sure you follow us so you'll know exactly when we come back in the fall. But for right now, we will see you next time.
Yeah, I do it for my people and my family and the ones who say they understand me. Yeah, I see you and I see you. We gon' make it to the top, that's what we do. Tell them like, black is the new green. Black is the new green. We gon' make it to the top, we gon' live our dream.